In this video, I'm going to talk about changes that were made in Cloud Grid Designer for Cloud version 32. So if you go to your Help menu and scroll down here, it should say Cloud.32 there. That's the current version. If you don't have that, you should refresh your browser up here, and then it should say Cloud.32 here. Okay, so that's what we'll be talking about here. Now, in this version, I've added symbols. Right now, the only symbols that are there are the ones for Mosaic Overlay Crochet. But you'll notice up here next to your foreground and background color, you now have a symbol drop down. This will fill up over time as I create symbols for each project type. So there's no symbols for this project type. This symbol selection up here is going to work with this drawing tool down here. Which is going to allow us to draw and erase symbols. Okay, there have been a couple of other things that were modified, but I'll go through those when I'm actually drawing some of the symbols and stuff. Okay, so the remainder of this video is for those people who are interested in doing mosaic and overlay crochet. And those people who are not, though, you might want to watch it anyway, just so you can see what's coming, so you can see how the symbols draw and that kind of thing. So, it's up to you. Okay, so I'm going to go to project here and I'm going to create a new project. And now in the list of projects here is now Mosaic Overlay Crochet. Okay. This is intended to be used for the traditional mosaic overlay crochet, where you have tails that are coming out of both ends, and you work the row only from like right to left or left to right if you're left-handed, but you work it in only one direction. You don't work rows back and forth and back and forth. So it's intended for that kind of thing. There's also, I'm hoping to add anyway, another project type, probably maybe by next weekend, that will be the reverse mosaic overlay crochet, where there's somebody online who's been doing a continuous crochet where they bring the yarn back from the left side to the right side and then continue to crochet. So it gets rid of all of your tails, or a lot of the tails that you normally would have in the traditional form of that type of crochet. And also, she's figured out a way to make a reverse pattern on the back side of the crochet, with some easy changes to the pattern and a couple of extra stitches that she uses to do that. So I'm going to try and add that by next weekend. But right now we're talking about the traditional mosaic overlay crochet. So let's go ahead and pick a gauge here. These are all going to be single crochet because basically the traditional mosaic crochet is based on starting out with kind of like single crocheted stripes. So you usually have two colors that you're working with at any particular time when you're making your pattern, and the base of the whole thing is single crochet. So I'm using a single crochet gauge to determine the sizing of the project. So you can pick one of these approximate crochet gauges for whatever weight of yarn that you're using. That will fill in these things below, or you can fill these in yourself. You just need a sample swatch height, width, and how many rows and stitches are in that. Then you decide how big you want your swatch to be. We'll just start with a 20 by 20 here. And I'm going to go ahead and pick Red Heart Super Saver. Okay, and we'll say create project. Okay. Now, something that is different for everyone is after you create a project, I'm going to be asking you what you would like your starting foreground and background color to be. And this is actually different for everyone. Although for Mosaic Overlay Crochet, it's going to take the foreground and the background color that you pick here and use that to make the initial stripes that you would start working your pattern with. The background color is going to be the foundation row in this particular case. If you aren't interested in picking anything right here, you can just click the close button down here at the bottom, and that will do exactly what it used to do. It'll just pick a default color, and then you can change them from there. And you can always change, even if you pick your foreground and background color here, that you can always change them in the same way you've always changed them before with the Grid Designer. So let's go ahead and pick two colors here. I'm going to, so if I get kind of some bright contrast, I'm going to pick bright yellow. And then I think there's a turquoise in here that I want to pick. It's down here with the blue-green. Okay, so now I've picked those two colors. And I say set colors. Okay, and that creates my stripes for me. I can give the project a name now if I want to, or I can save it later. I'm just going to close that and save it later. Okay, so now our project type is Mosaic Overlay Crochet. Okay, and we've got our gauge in here, and we've got our two colors that we've picked that we're using so far. Okay, now we have symbols. So up here in this drop down, we now have design symbols. In general, these are the symbols that I've found in use when I look across the internet and how people are doing things. In general, the X symbol is used to draw a double crochet, which drops down across the line of color below it. So let's just start with that X first. Okay, that's selected. And then we'll come down here. We've got three options here. We can draw the symbol. We can erase all the symbols in a cell that we click on, or we can erase the only you could possibly, in certain cases, you can have more than one symbol in a cell. So in that case, you have an erase symbol by type, and this will erase whatever the selected symbol is and nothing else. Okay, so there's two ways to erase there. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw some of these things on here. So we've got the X up here. Okay, and when we do that, it automatically draws the symbol X, but it also automatically draws it takes the color of wherever you clicked and draws that down here below that. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be drawing a double, you're working all your single crochets in back loops so that you have a front loop here, and you work a double crochet down across that color. There's still a single crochet behind there, but it's worked down across that in front of that color into the front loop of the single crochet down below. And this is how the mosaic and overlay crochet is done. So you have a way of, you can, when you click on these things to place the X, then it's going to be doing a double crochet down to here, and so you get that color bar that comes down like that. Okay. So you could you could click on here and do, create your patterns however you would like them to be, and primarily use the X. Now, there's also a dot here also, which stands for an anchored double crochet. Usually, my impression is that these are usually used at the top of the thing or somewhere where you want to grab the back loop. So basically what this is a double crochet where you grab instead of just working it entirely in front of this single crochet, you actually work into the back loop. You grab a loop of that through that and then work the double crochet in front of that. And there's tons of videos online that will tell you how to do that. But that's the symbol for an anchored double crochet. It draws exactly the same as the other one, and as far as the chart goes, it's a dot instead of an X, and it does exactly the same thing that the X does. Okay, then I've added a few things here. There's generally the stitches that are worked, the single crochets that are worked at the beginning, at the end of the rows, are called border stitches for mosaic crochet. And I've seen someone using the symbol BS here. I thought B would probably be adequate for that. I've also seen these arrow symbols used for beginning and ending border stitches. So I'm providing those three things there for border stitches. So you would take one of those and maybe you go along the side here. And these are things that will draw either dark, they'll either draw black or white, depending upon what color it is. It's the Grid Designer software has determined that these two colors here are dark enough that it can draw white on it. I'll show you in a minute how it will draw black if we change the colors underneath there. Let's go ahead and do this. Probably actually don't need it on the top. Oh, actually, we do need it on the top. We don't need it on the bottom. Need it on the top. Okay. And so those would be your border stitches. And then there would be tails on each side of this as it's worked. Okay, in case you want to draw some lines, you can do that. This will draw lines on your graph. You might want to mark out the section that where you're repeating something. You could mark repeating sections that way, or you could mark off. Let's undo that one and go back to do this one. You could mark off the side if you wanted to, something like that. But I thought drawing having the ability to draw some line symbols on the graph would be a useful thing. So there are 4 line symbols here. One draws on the right side of the cell, left side of the cell, top of the cell, bottom of the cell. Okay, and those also change colors depending upon the background color. So let's just go quickly and change. Let's do substitute colors. Now, there are some things that I'm still going to be enhancing along here, and substitute colors is one of them. It's not drawing the full pattern here, but it is drawing the underlying stripes, which will allow you to select and change colors here. Okay, so let's pick a lighter yellow and substitute that in. Okay, and now we've got a lighter yellow in here. And notice that wherever the symbols are on the yellow, they're now black. Okay, so Grid Designer is trying to make sure that the X and the dot and all the symbols will show up. So it's drawing black or white depending upon what the background color is. Okay. All right, so as I go along, I will eventually make it so that this will draw the full pattern in here. But for right now, it's just drawing the stripes. Okay, so what else can we do? Let's see. Let's show the erase. If we say erase all symbols, we can use this to erase X's. We can use it to erase lines like that, or maybe we want to keep that. Let's erase these things here. And the erase, erase symbol by type. This can be really useful, actually. I forgot to show you one other thing. Like when I'm drawing my X's at the beginning, let's go back to draw symbol for just a second. Okay, when I'm drawing my X's at the beginning, and if I have a mouse, I can do things with the left mouse button and the right mouse button. So the left mouse button is drawing the X here, and the right mouse button will delete by type. It basically does the same function as the other button down here. It will delete by whatever it is that you're drawing up here. So in this way, as you're placing your X's, if you have a mouse that you're using, it's really easy to just go click, 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 and then go right mouse, right mouse, right mouse, right mouse, and erase them. So I've got that left mouse, right mouse thing going, when you've got the draw selection here. Now that erase symbol by type, if you're on a tablet or something, you would have to go and select this thing down here or the other erase tool in order to erase your thing. Okay, and notice if I click over here with that, that's not going to delete anything over here because X is what's selected. So it's only going to erase whatever is selected. Okay, let's talk a little bit about copy and paste. So let's take this section here. Now I don't want to get involved in doing lots of rotations and things like that with symbols. So it's going to be very simple. I may do some more things like that with other project types, like maybe in cross stitch, there might be some things you might want to rotate or something like that, or fill more or something like that. But in terms of overlay crochet, everything is fairly rigid, and we don't want to be rotating these things or doing anything really fancy with them. So once we do a copy, let's do a copy and a paste, and we go to the paste tools. For right now, I have disabled most of what's in here except for stamping and applying it to the grid. Now there's some of these that I could enable. I think that I can flip it vertically. I think I can flip it horizontally. I think I can invert the colors. I think I can fill the grid with a particular pattern, that kind of thing. I think those things can be done. I don't think that I will be doing any resizing or rotating with overlay crochet. I also will be able to turn the background on and off, I think, too. So, any case, for right now, the only two things that are enabled in here are stamp and apply. And if you remember, stamp is the one that we can do where we can do multiple things, and you can go across the whole thing and do it like that. And now, also when you're doing mosaic crochet, if you're doing a copy and paste, be sure that you're paying attention to where your stripes are. So I wouldn't want to paste this here because I'd be pasting yellow in the middle of my blue stripe, and I don't want to do that. So you want to get your paste area lined up. I don't think that I want to enforce that so that you can't do that, paste it in the wrong place, because you may want to do that. I mean, there's no law that says, I mean, even though the traditional method is to make a single crochet all the way across here, there's no law that says you couldn't have a section in the middle where your single crochets change to some other color. And so I'm not going to enforce this being, where the stripes are. So you just have to watch that when you do the copy and paste. Okay, so you know, that's that. Okay, so anyway, then you leave the area either by clicking the close button or clicking the apply, and now we have, quite a bit of design on here. And then you could select that and copy and paste it down or whatever. You could you can add rows and columns in the same way that you always have with this add delete rows down here, or you can go to the display up here and reset the grid size and add rows and columns and that kind of thing. Whatever you want to do there, and those things should work pretty much like they always have. Now, I've left all of these other things open to be used, although I can't imagine using the fill much in this situation. It would be useful if you want to go to, let's see, we've got a darker yellow here. If you wanted to go to a particular line and change the color here, you could do that. Like if you wanted to, kind of experiment with that kind of thing so that you have different colors, different stripes of different colors in your design. The fill tool will be good for that because it'll fill that line, and then it'll also cause the excess to draw down, where that double crochet is. So that could be useful for that. And if you add new rows and columns and things, they will come up. Let's do that real quick. So let's add some columns, add right of selection. Okay, so if I added several columns over here, those are always going to be added as usual with the background color. So, you could use your line tool, say to draw, your additional stripes, here. Like that, to extend your stripes across there. There is a fill stripes, but it doesn't work too well on a section like that because it could get confused as to where there's where it's filling because the color will continue off into the other area. Um, Although if you had if you cleared the entire thing, you could fill the whole thing using the fill stripes, and that would work. So for instance, if we wanted to just start our project over again, and we just say clear all here, and we say please just start that over again, then the quickest way to get back your original stripes is to go with the fill stripes, click on the line where you want to start that stripe pattern, and then you could start over again. And then you could start by drawing there. Okay. You can also put shapes in here. They will not do anything special. They'll just draw over the top of whatever you're doing. They'll erase the symbols that you have in that particular area. Same thing if you do the text. It's going to erase the symbols wherever it puts something. And the same thing if you use a library pattern. But I could see someone with something a little bit wider where maybe you did put some text in the middle of it or something like that, because crochet is very flexible. You can always just change the color in the middle and insert something in the middle of your overlay crochet that's regular crochet. So it's possible to use the shape and that kind of thing to insert something in the middle or wherever you want to put it, and use the overlay crochet around it. Okay, so that's about it. Let's just draw a couple more things here. And then, the project saves just like usual. It will print and in the same way that it always has. There are no new options in here for printing. There's nothing right now to turn the symbols off, print without the symbols, print with the symbols, things like that. There's no new options in here to do that. It just prints everything. So if we just go in here and look at print, then it's going to come up like this, and you're just going to see your X's across there like that, right? And the same thing is true for download and all of that. You can also share these projects. They share just like all the other projects. And let's see, I don't think there's anything else that would be different that I need to make any comment about. Okay. So anyway, that's the first traditional mosaic overlay crochet. And then I'm hoping by next weekend we have a second project type that will be the reverse. It'll have a set of different symbols in here. It'll have A's and R's and D's and stuff like that. And that's going to be the reverse continuous mosaic overlay crochet. So I'm going to do that by next weekend, hopefully. And then we'll be starting on cross stitching and getting the symbols in there for cross stitching. Let me just show one more thing here. If we've got our pattern here and we want to be able to see texture, we can do that. I use single crochet texture for that. That's the one that would be applicable for this type. And then you can see the actual crochet structure, crochet texture here. And if we keep drawing, then we could do some more things on here. Okay, so you can draw it with the texture on and texture off. It might be a little easier to see the X's, with the texture off, and then look at the texture later, kind of like, just to kind of see what it looks like. And, so you could do it like that. But anyway, thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoy. Those people who have been waiting for the Mosaic Overlay Crochet, I hope you enjoy, working on your patterns in here. And again, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.